So let's pick up where we left off. Michael, you talked about in classrooms, the size is ridiculous. I said it. It's ridiculous. 40 students. And you said, okay, sometimes it's hard to have that kind of culture, because that's what it is, that culture of empathy in such a large classroom setting. So I remember just on one of our shows, we talked about the purpose of reading and using reading as a way to help develop empathy by reading, you know, certain texts, not textbook, these certain short stories and things of that nature. So let's pick up where you left off, Michael. I don't want you to describe the water while drowning, but just give me an idea of how is that frustrating?
Well, you know, at one time I had a class that had close to 37 second graders in it. And that was quite challenging. It got split up.
And I have one, so I understand.
Right. So later on, I had a class with 18. And the difference was that you have children that get up in the morning, especially where I was, and from the moment they get up, there's conflict. I had a little boy in my classroom that he'd get up and he had to fight one of his brothers or cousins at home. And then he'd get into the schoolyard and he'd have another conflict with another student in the schoolyard. And then he'd come to my classroom. Now, I had to sit down and talk to him before we started the class, because if I did not do that, then it would start rolling on throughout the day. I can do that if I have a class with 18, 20 students. But a class with 37, 38 students in it, I don't have time to sit down and give him 5 minutes of my time. And that's why it's so important now. The people say we do need counselors and we need social workers.
Oh, we do. We need wraparound services. That needs to be the norm.
Yes, but people should also realize that a teacher in that classroom also does the work of a counselor and the social worker. And all of
you know, I'll have to be honest with you, even in the classes that I teach, you're right. I do end up becoming the counselor. And you know, and you made a point earlier about if the students don't feel that you care for them, you don't get the connection. You don't get the commitment. Now, I am one of the faculty that I will let my students know in a heartbeat, I love you. I love you and I want you to succeed, because how well you succeed will determine how well I can rest when I am retired. And students are actually taken aback when you say, I love you. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right, so let me ask you this then. How will a teacher convey that if they're stressed?
I think it's the, oh my goodness, I think it's the challenge that we face every day, right? And so how are we being emotionally healthy as leaders? And I think of teachers as leaders too. Every day they come into our building, you are teacher leaders within this building. It is hard. It's very, very hard. I agree, having put together a master schedule this year where the classroom sizes are larger than they've ever been in our school.
And you have to make them large because there are enough teachers. You're not giving enough money.
We don't have enough money to buy enough teachers to have 18 students. I would love 18 students.
That's so hard for here, especially knowing that Peyton just got $17 million. I'm sorry.
It is.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
It is. It's very rough. It's very rough.
Well, I'm not sorry I said that. I meant that. It's difficult to understand about those priorities. Let me ask you this then. So, how can we expect our educators to deal and address with bullying in the classroom if the educators have bosses who are bullies?
that does roll down. I have to say that that does roll down. I would like to bring that up because there is a great deal of intimidation that goes on in the school, and the intimidation level raises as pressure is placed upon the school. You know, with the budget, with the testing, with all of these things, you know, it puts pressure on everyone and gives everyone short tempers. But I would also like to address another thing that I think has a lot to do with bullying in our community, this idea that you have to whoop a child to make them do right.
No.
Because I have to say this, a lot of kids, when
we're
I was
running
a
short on
kid,
time, so go
when
ahead,
I
you get
got a
the last
whooping,
word.
I went out and I whooped somebody else in the streets.
Well, that may be for a great opportunity to come back, and we're going to revisit talking about how we discipline the children, as well as talking about bullies in the workplace.
Wow.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.